Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am Connor with Honor. We are with SantaClaritaOpenhouses.com. There's been a lot in the world regarding insurance, a lot of news, and especially how it applies to Southern California. Here, what we've been watching lately is we have fires again upon us in Santa Clarita and the vicinity. And I do know that every time some kind of a natural disaster starts to happen, then we see insurance companies seem to pull back a little bit. And I wanted to bring Scott Wilk. He's an expert in the local insurance industry and is with the Woodlands Financial Group and just absolutely fantastic. He has done miracles for clients of mine in the process of buying real estate when you would think broker and broker kind of the same as some kind of people believe real estate agent kind of the same.
Mhm.
I can't tell you, Scott, these poor people, they were talking about 4 and 5 weeks just waiting to hear back, and you finished it. I mean, just like in a regular time frame. So how are you today?
Yeah, good. And I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with market access. So I started my insurance career at State Farm, which State Farm's, a good company, but at the end of the day, I only had one set of products, one set of rates. If my rate wasn't competitive, nothing I could do about it. If State Farm didn't want the business, nothing I could do about it. As an independent broker, you get the ability to shop around and place people where they belong or give the insurance companies a type of business that they want. Different insurance companies are going to have different niches. And you're right, not all brokers are the same. An individual broker doesn't necessarily have the ability to go to the entire insurance market. You have to be contracted with the insurance carriers in order to write business with them. So I'm with TWFG Insurance. This is my third brokerage. I started my career with Goosehead Insurance, where I had access to about 30 insurance companies. Rolled my contract over to Penguin Insurance, where I had 60 insurance companies, and then TWFG acquired Penguin through an acquisition, and it ballooned to over 300 insurance companies. So people ask me all the time, how are you able to get these things done where no other insurance agent is able to do it? It mainly has to do with market access. I have more markets out there than anyone else. So as we've seen, so many companies have been leaving the state or freezing new business, but I've still been able to find people insurance because I've got the market access others don't.
I wanted to ask you with regard to that, whenever somebody reaches out to you, and I'm sure after the show today, we're going to have several inquiries. What is that best point of contact? Let's start with that, just in case somebody wants to come back to the show later. Is that going to be the 661-313-3762?
Yeah, that's my cell. They're always welcome to reach out to that. I do have an office line as well. I have 12 agents in my office. By the end of the summer, that should be up to 14, possibly 15. So onboarding two more, and another one is going through his licensing right now. So we've grown pretty significantly, and we've grown so much because of the high demand. With so many people having difficulty getting insurance, I've been seen as the person in Santa Clarita who's been able to get things done, still give people affordable insurance rates. So, a little over a year ago, year and a half ago, I had maybe four people in my office. Now I have, an extra 10 just because we've needed that to keep up with the demand of all the referrals we've been getting.
Well, and that's exactly why we're doing the show today to talk about the fires. So I want to get to that because I know people are very, very concerned about what's going to be
Mhm.
happening. It's like every time we have some kind of natural disaster, whatever real estate transactions are in process, they
Mhm.
stop. Everybody stops because no insurance is moving for the present time. What does it look like out there now for this?
Yeah, so far with the post fire, I believe it's called, I hadn't heard any moratoriums come through yet. But you're right, we do tend to see that if there's a big wildfire that's threatening certain communities, insurance companies will put temporary moratoriums in place because let's be honest, what insurance company is going to want to put insurance on a home that's being currently threatened by a wildfire? It's just not a good risk for the insurance companies, and a lot of people kind of misunderstand how fire claims work and how wildfires really affect things. We think of homes burning down, yes, that happens, but smoke and ash damage is actually one of the most expensive things that happen during wildfires because you can have smoke and ash damage claims miles from where the fire stops, just with how the wind patterns work and how they blow the smoke and ash damage. And a lot of homes are built to be more fire resistant. A couple of years ago, I had a customer who had a wildfire burn down her hillside, burn up her backyard. The home wasn't touched, but the inside was filled with smoke, ash, soot. She had to get the entire house deep cleaned. She had to get all of her, furniture deep cleaned. She had to get all of her clothes replaced. That was a, pretty expensive claim. And even though there was no fire damage on the inside, it was still, significant money that the insurance company paid out. So when people say it's like, hey, I'm surrounded by concrete, how is my home still a fire risk? It's the smoke and ash damage.
You know what? People don't even expect that there's other things that happen besides houses burning down. Never even
Mhm.
thought of that, I guess, unless you've gone through it. How do you see this affecting this particular market as it unfolds, or do you believe doesn't seem to be a lot of residences subject to it, and I'm not even sure if any have burned at this point.
Yeah, so far this has not seemed as significant as a lot of the other wildfires we've had, and thank God last year was a pretty calm wildfire year for us. If you look at the 3 years prior to that, we had seven of the top 10 wildfires in California history, and that's really when we saw most of the market shut down. We saw most companies, leave the state or stop writing new business. We have been seeing a lot of things on the national level, and the state stuff is going to affect the local state markets, but the national stuff can affect it as well because it affects the insurance carriers' national portfolios. So, State Farm, for example, had a $6.8 billion underwriting loss in 2022, and it went down to 6.3 loss in 2023. And that wasn't just California. That was hurricanes. That was things happening everywhere. So, roughly 20 to 25 years ago, we had the Texas mold crisis. That was the
Okay.
first That was the first $1 billion insurance disaster that the nation had. In 2023, we had $24 billion disasters. So that really shows how significantly things have changed, and insurance companies have been having to pay out a lot more money than they had previously, which causes everything to tighten up.
Here in Santa Clarita Valley, we see that some of the condominiums, townhomes, those places don't have any ability to get insurance.
Mhm.
Are you hearing about this? And is there a
Yeah,
remedy or
Yeah, and that's actually affected us personally. We have a rental in West Creek that we've been trying to sell. We wanted to sell it when we were upsizing when we had our baby, and we weren't able to sell it because the buyers were having trouble getting funding. It's a little bit of a different issue. It's not that the units themselves aren't insurable; they are. The issue is that so many companies are no longer insuring HOAs for the master policy. So lenders are refusing to lend in these communities because the master policies are so underinsured, or in some cases, uninsured. And that's something that the state of California is looking at very closely and trying to come up with new regulations that can help with that. But when you're looking at a condo community where you could possibly need $50 million worth of coverage, and it's in a high fire zone, not a lot of insurance companies are going to volunteer to insure $50 million in a high risk fire zone where they think there's going to be a high likelihood that there's going to be a disastrous claim.
no, you're absolutely right. That's yeah, why jump in when they can make better profits elsewhere? That's no doubt.
Hmm.
Let me ask you, with regard to the buying of residential real estate, I remember going through the escrow processes prior to the last 6, 8, 10 months. Usually we kind of had the buyers wait. We didn't really do it up
Hmm.
front. I mean, everything kind of
Hmm.
seemed about 1,000, about 1,200, about 1,500. I mean, it was kind of all expected in the single family
Hmm.
world, even condo townhome. Now, what's that suggestion for buyers contemplating to buy anything? Call first, maybe talk to
Yeah.
you a little bit.
Yeah, so a couple things with that. First of all, there's the insurance estimates, and then there's the timelines for it. So we definitely, and I've always recommended get the insurance shopping done first, just so you're never unpleasantly surprised. But you're right. Most buyers wait until the last minute, and I always advise my lenders and my realtors that work with me. As soon as you open up an escrow, call me and let me do quotes. The customer is allowed to use whatever insurance company they want, but we know that buyers often wait till the last minute, even if they're told not to, and their insurance company may or may not be able to do it. So, so many realtors will come to me and say, hey, Scott, emergency situation. We're trying to close escrow today and we don't have insurance yet because the buyer didn't get it taken care of. And, with that short of a time frame, I may or may not be able to help. Back when I first opened my independent brokerage in 2017, the average rate for California home insurance policy, it was about 925. It's probably triple that now. And we could pretty much instantly bind any type of business we wanted. Now, most of the preferred carriers, your Mercury, your Nationwide, Progressive, Safeco, Travelers, whoever you go to, they're still going to be instant bind, but they may or may not be taking the business. So if we have to go through California Fair Plan, for example, which is the last resort insurer for people who can't otherwise get fire insurance, there's a waiting period. So if you're coming to me and saying, we need to close escrow within 24 hours, that may or may not be possible depending on the features of the home. So I always say, help me help you guys. If you give me advance notice so I can make sure it's done early, then insurance isn't going to hold up your closing. If you wait till the last second to call me, insurance may hold up the closing.
I wanted to ask you too, in reference to closings, when a seller is contemplating putting their home on the market, they
Mhm.
might have had insurance from some company that only is being there currently because they're being grandfathered, I guess.
Correct. Mhm.
Is it a good idea to maybe have them reach out as well? Because what if that buyer, I mean, that's something a seller might want to know what the insurance capability of buyers are.
Yes and no. So first of all, insurance policies are not transferable. There actually is a new carrier entering into the market, which right now is just doing high value homes. And by high value homes, I mean, dwelling amounts of over, $5 million. And I'm not even talking about property values. I'm talking about reconstruction costs of over $5 million. They're going to be the first insurance company on the market that is going to let policies be transferable from seller to buyer. And we may see more insurance companies follow suit, assuming that business model works out. But typically, insurance policies are not transferable. Even in my State Farm days, when we had some zip codes shut down, I had a borrower that owned a home, and he literally bought the home right next door because it was a bigger home and they needed to upsize, and State Farm wouldn't issue him a policy because that zip code was closed. It was open when he bought his current home. It was close to the next one. He said, "I'm literally moving right next door. Sorry, still can't help you with that." So some realtors, when they get listings, do ask me to do dummy insurance quotes. That may or may That'll give you a ballpark idea because the individual who is buying, the actual buyer, their insurance score does affect it as well. So, for example, date of birth is a rating
Oh.
factor. So, someone born in the 80s is going to have a different rate than someone born in the 60s. And then, if that buyer has insurance claims in their background, that could affect both rate and eligibility. So, I could do a quote with a dummy buyer that would be acceptable. But if the actual buyer, let's say filed two claims in their previous home, I can't use that. I can't use that quote for them. They might get declined on it. So it doesn't hurt to kind of get an idea, but it's not going to be 100% accurate.
I wanted to ask in regards to insurance services, the real estate end of it, housing, those sorts of things, you have those covered. There are other services you have that could be maybe sisters and brothers to the real estate and insuring real property. What are those other
Mhm.
services you have?
Yeah, I mean, we do all kinds of insurance at this point. So, home, auto, life, commercial. We recently launched a health insurance division. We're having a lot of success with people, helping them with their Medicare needs, with their Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage plans. When I first started my brokerage, it was just me. I just specialized in the home insurance. I mean, I knew how to do everything else, but when you're a captive agent like a State Farm, a Farmers, and Allstate, and you only have one company to specialize in, it's easy to specialize in all their products. When you're working with 300 different insurance companies, it's a lot harder to be a specialist in everything. So now that I have, soon to be 14 team members, it's easier for us to be able to, offer everything because we have specialists in certain product types.
You know what? That's actually a brilliant strategy. You only
Mhm.
grew as much as you can serve your clients to the best of
Mhm.
your ability. And that's absolutely why you're so successful, Scott.
Mhm.
I wanted to thank you so much for coming on to today, answering some of these questions related to the post fire. We're going to put this up. I'll get it on all the social media, but you're the Woodlands Financial Group, Scott Wilk, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Scott, for everything.